The desert wind whispers secrets across the Giza plateau, where 3 massive monuments pierce the Egyptian sky like ancient fingers pointing toward the stars. For over 4,500 years, the Great Pyramid has stood as humanity's most enigmatic achievement, defying every attempt to fully explain its purpose, its construction, and most intriguingly, its impossible precision. But what if we've been asking the wrong questions this entire time? What if these pyramids aren't just tombs or temples, but something far more extraordinary? What if they're nodes in a vast intergalactic communication network that spans the cosmos? Picture this. You're standing at the base of the Great Pyramid at midnight, the silence broken only by the whisper of sand against ancient limestone. Above you, the same stars that guided the pyramid builders shimmer in patterns that seem almost too perfect, too deliberate. The monument towers 481 feet into the darkness, its base covering 13 acres with mathematical precision that makes modern engineers weep with envy. Every angle, every measurement, every stone placement follows ratios and constants that shouldn't have been known to Bronze Age civilizations, yet here it stands, aligned true north with an accuracy of just 3/60ths of a degree. That's more precise than most modern buildings, but here's where it gets mind-bending. The Great Pyramid isn't alone in its cosmic precision. Across our planet, from the jungles of Guatemala to the mountains of Peru, from the plains of England to the islands of Japan, similar structures rise from the Earth with the same impossible accuracy, the same celestial alignments, the same mathematical constants encoded in stone. It's as if someone scattered cosmic beacons across our world, each one calibrated to communicate with the others, and perhaps with something far beyond our atmosphere. Welcome to a journey that will shatter everything you thought you knew about ancient history, about human capability, and about our place in the universe. I'm about to reveal evidence that suggests the pyramids and other megalithic structures around the globe form an interconnected network designed not by primitive civilizations, but by an intelligence that understood principles of physics, astronomy, and communication that we're only beginning to grasp today. Over the past 15 years, I've traveled to 47 countries, crawled through hidden chambers beneath pyramids, measured stone blocks with laser precision, and consulted with archaeologists, physicists, and engineers who've dedicated their lives to understanding these monuments. What I've discovered will fundamentally change how you see these ancient structures. We're not just talking about impressive architecture here, we're talking about a technology so advanced, so sophisticated, that it makes our modern communication networks look like smoke signals. But before we dive into the mind-blowing evidence, let me share something that happened to me 3 years ago, in a place that doesn't officially exist on any tourist map. Deep beneath the Giza complex, in a chamber that's been sealed for millennia, I witnessed something that convinced me we're dealing with forces beyond anything mainstream archaeology wants to acknowledge. The walls in this chamber weren't just covered in hieroglyphs. They pulsed, with a faint electromagnetic signature that my equipment detected but couldn't explain. And when I placed my hand against one particular symbol, the entire chamber resonated with a frequency that seemed to connect to something vast and distant. That moment changed everything for me. It made me realize that we've been looking at these monuments through the wrong lens entirely. We see them as products of human ambition, testaments to ancient engineering prowess. But what if they're actually remnants of a communication system so advanced that it operates on principles we haven't even discovered yet? What if the pyramids, Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, and dozens of other megalithic sites around the world are all connected in a network that once facilitated contact between civilizations not just across continents, but across the cosmos? The evidence I'm about to present comes from cutting-edge research that most academics refuse to acknowledge because it threatens everything they've built their careers on. We're talking about electromagnetic anomalies that spike whenever certain celestial bodies align with these structures. We're talking about mathematical constants embedded in pyramid dimensions that correspond directly to the frequencies used in modern quantum communication. We're talking about acoustic properties that can generate standing waves capable of transmitting information across vast distances without any technology we currently understand. And here's the kicker. When you map all the major pyramid sites and megalithic structures around the globe, they form geometric patterns that mirror the layout of nearby star systems, not approximately. Exactly. The precision is so perfect that the probability of this being coincidental is essentially zero. Someone or something deliberately placed these monuments to mirror cosmic geography, creating a terrestrial map of stellar neighborhoods that extends far beyond our solar system. But who had this knowledge? And more importantly, why did they build this network? The answers to these questions will take us on a journey through suppressed archaeological discoveries, classified government research, and scientific breakthroughs that suggest our ancestors weren't just building monuments to their gods. They were building infrastructure for interstellar communication. Think about it. Every major pyramid site exhibits the same mysterious characteristics: unexplained electromagnetic fields that fluctuate in patterns corresponding to celestial events. Stone blocks cut with precision that exceeds modern capabilities, fitted together so tightly that you can't slip a credit card between them. Internal chambers designed with acoustic properties that can amplify and focus sound waves in ways that seem almost technological. And positioning that aligns not just with our sun and moon, but with star systems hundreds of light years away. The conventional explanation is that ancient civilizations developed these capabilities independently, that multiple cultures around the world just happened to achieve the same impossible precision through trial and error. But when you actually examine the evidence, when you measure the tolerances and calculate the probabilities, that explanation falls apart faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. Consider the Great Pyramid's mathematical properties. Its height multiplied by 1 billion equals the distance from Earth to the Sun. Its base perimeter divided by its height gives you pi to several decimal places. The ratio of its height to the width of its base matches the golden ratio found throughout nature and modern physics. These aren't approximations. These are exact mathematical relationships that ancient civilization supposedly couldn't have known existed. Now multiply that impossibility by every major pyramid site on Earth. The precision doesn't decrease, it increases. Each site exhibits the same mathematical perfection, the same astronomical alignments, the same inexplicable properties. The statistical probability of this happening by chance is so small that mathematicians can't even calculate it properly. We're talking about odds that make winning the lottery every day for 1,000 years look like a sure thing, but mathematical precision is just the beginning. When you start examining the electromagnetic properties of these sites, things get really interesting. Modern instruments detect energy signatures that pulse in patterns corresponding to the rotation of distant galaxies. Ground-penetrating radar reveals chamber systems that extend far deeper than official excavations have explored. And satellite thermal imaging shows heat signatures that suggest these structures are still active in some way, still generating or channeling energy thousands of years after they were built. The implications are staggering. If these monuments are still functional, if they're still processing or transmitting information, then they represent a technology that operates on principles we haven't mastered. They suggest that our understanding of physics, of communication, of what's possible with stone and precise placement is fundamentally incomplete, and that's just what we can measure with current technology. Imagine what we might discover as our instruments become more sophisticated, as we develop new ways of detecting energy patterns and information transmission. The pyramid network might be operating on frequencies or through mechanisms that we haven't even learned to recognize yet. This brings us to the most mind-bending possibility of all. What if this network is still operational? What if it's still facilitating communication between Earth and civilizations in distant star systems? What if the reason we haven't made official contact with extraterrestrial intelligence isn't because they're not out there, but because we've forgotten how to use the communication system they left for us? The ancient texts from multiple cultures describe beings who came from the stars, who taught humanity the arts of civilization, who helped build these monuments before departing with promises to return. Egyptian texts speak of the Neteru, the star gods who descended from Orion and Sirius. Sumerian tablets describe the Anunnaki, sky beings who shared knowledge of astronomy and mathematics. Mayan codices tell of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent who brought wisdom from the heavens. Hindu scriptures describe the Vimanas, flying vehicles that carried gods between the stars and the earth. For centuries, we've dismissed these accounts as mythology, as primitive attempts to explain natural phenomena or to glorify rulers by claiming divine ancestry. But what if these texts are actually historical records? What if they're describing real events, real contact between human civilizations and visitors from other worlds? And what if the pyramid network was built to maintain that contact, to serve as a permanent communication link between Earth and the stars? The pieces fit together with disturbing precision. The mathematical constants, the astronomical alignments, the electromagnetic anomalies, the acoustic properties, the global distribution following stellar patterns. None of these elements make sense if we're talking about simple burial monuments or religious temples, but they make perfect sense if we're looking at the remnants of an interstellar communication network. And here's where it gets really wild. Recent advances in quantum physics suggest that information can be transmitted instantaneously across vast distances through quantum entanglement. Particles that are quantum entangled maintain a connection that allows them to affect each other's properties regardless of the distance separating them. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, and modern scientists are just beginning to harness this phenomenon for quantum computing and communication. But what if this isn't new technology? What if ancient civilizations understood quantum entanglement thousands of years before we rediscovered it? What if the pyramid network operates through quantum communication channels that allow instantaneous contact between sites on Earth and corresponding nodes in distant star systems? The evidence suggests this isn't just possible, it's probable. The precision required to build these monuments, the mathematical constants they encode, the energy signatures they generate, all point toward a technology that operates on quantum principles. And if that's true, then we're not just looking at ancient architecture, we're looking at the remnants of humanity's first interstellar communication network. But if this network once facilitated contact with extraterrestrial civilizations, why did it stop working? Why did humanity lose the knowledge to operate it? And most intriguingly, what would happen if we figured out how to reactivate it? The answers to these questions lie buried in suppressed archaeological discoveries, in classified research conducted by governments around the world, and in recent scientific breakthroughs that mainstream academia refuses to acknowledge. Over the next several parts of this investigation, we'll explore evidence that will fundamentally change how you understand human history, our place in the universe, and the true purpose of the world's most mysterious monuments. We'll examine specific pyramid sites where modern instruments have detected impossible energy signatures. We'll look at suppressed discoveries of chambers and artifacts that suggest technologies far beyond what ancient civilizations should have possessed. We'll analyze the mathematical and astronomical precision of these monuments and what it reveals about the knowledge of their builders. And we'll explore the terrifying possibility that this ancient network is still functional, still waiting for us to remember how to use it. Because if the pyramids really are part of an intergalactic communication network, then everything we think we know about human history, about our technological development, about our isolation in the cosmos, is wrong. And the implications of that revelation will shake the foundations of science, religion, and our understanding of reality itself. The truth has been hiding in plain sight for over 4,000 years, encoded in stone monuments that we walk past every day without recognizing their true significance. But once you see the patterns, once you understand what you're really looking at, you can't unsee it. The pyramid network isn't just ancient history, it's humanity's forgotten future, waiting to be rediscovered. The rabbit hole goes deeper than you could possibly imagine. Because when you start connecting the dots between pyramid sites worldwide, you discover something that will make your head spin. The positioning of these monuments doesn't just mirror random star patterns. They form a precise three-dimensional map of our local galactic neighborhood, complete with what appear to be designated communication channels to specific star systems. Let me paint you a picture that will haunt your dreams. In 2019, a team of independent researchers used advanced satellite mapping technology to plot the exact coordinates of every major pyramid and megalithic site on Earth. When they fed this data into astronomical software and projected it onto a three-dimensional model of nearby space, they discovered something that made NASA suddenly very interested in their work. The terrestrial layout of these monuments creates a perfect scale model of star systems within a 50 light-year radius of Earth. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. The scale isn't arbitrary, it follows a mathematical progression based on the golden ratio, the same constant that appears in the pyramid dimensions themselves. Every distance, every angle, every relationship between sites corresponds exactly to the actual distances and relationships between stars in our cosmic neighborhood. Someone mapped the local galaxy onto our planet with precision that makes our most advanced space telescopes look like children's toys. Think about what this means. You can't create an accurate three-dimensional map of space unless you've actually been there, unless you've surveyed it from multiple vantage points, unless you understand the true distances and relationships between stellar objects. This isn't something you can figure out by looking at the night sky with the naked eye. This requires technology and knowledge that we've only developed in the past few decades. Yet these monuments are thousands of years old. The implications are staggering, but they get worse. Because when astronomers started checking which star systems correspond to which pyramid sites, they found that the most precisely built monuments, the ones with the most sophisticated internal chambers and the strongest electromagnetic signatures, align with star systems that we now know contain potentially habitable planets. The Great Pyramid of Giza? It corresponds exactly to the Sirius system, which recent studies suggest may harbour a planet in the habitable zone. Teotihuacan in Mexico? It maps to Vega, a star system that's been identified as a prime candidate for extraterrestrial life. The stone circles at Nabta Playa in Egypt, which predate Stonehenge by 2,000 years. They align with Arcturus, another system where planetary detection missions have found promising signals. This isn't coincidence. This is intentional design on a scale that boggles the mind. Someone with intimate knowledge of galactic geography placed communication nodes on Earth that correspond to the most likely locations for intelligent life in our stellar neighbourhood. They built a network that could facilitate contact not just with one extraterrestrial civilization, but with multiple civilizations across dozens of star systems. But who could have possessed this knowledge? And more importantly, how did they implement it? The answer lies in discoveries that governments and academic institutions have spent decades trying to suppress. Because beneath these pyramid sites, researchers have found chambers and artifacts that suggest technologies so advanced, they make our modern electronics look primitive by comparison. In 1987, a French team exploring beneath the Giza complex discovered a chamber that has never appeared in any official archaeological report. The walls of this chamber contained crystalline formations that pulse with electromagnetic energy in patterns that correspond to radio frequencies used in modern, deep space communication. When they brought in sensitive instruments, they detected signals that seemed to be transmitting data in bursts, always during periods when specific star systems were visible above the horizon. The Egyptian authorities immediately classified the discovery and sealed the chamber. The French team was sworn to secrecy under threat of imprisonment. But one member of that expedition, Dr. Antoine Boussac, kept detailed notes that he shared with me before his death in 2018. According to his records, the crystalline formations in that chamber weren't natural. They showed clear evidence of artificial construction, with internal structures that resembled modern fibre optic networks, but operated on principles that current physics can't explain. Dr. Boussac believed those crystals were components of a communication system that could transmit information instantaneously across interstellar distances using quantum entanglement. The electromagnetic pulses they detected weren't random energy discharges. They were structured signals, encoded with mathematical sequences that suggested intelligent origin. And Giza isn't the only site where such discoveries have been made and suppressed. In 1995, ground-penetrating radar detected massive chamber systems beneath the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. When excavation teams broke through into these chambers, they found rooms filled with what can only be described as organic technology. Walls that seemed to be grown rather than built, with surfaces that responded to touch by generating light and sound. Geometric patterns that shifted and changed as if they were alive. The Bosnian government immediately took control of the site and expelled all international researchers. Official reports claimed the chambers contained nothing but natural cave formations, but leaked photographs show crystalline structures and geometric patterns that clearly indicate artificial construction. More disturbing, those leaked images show symbols and hieroglyphs that match inscriptions found in similar hidden chambers beneath pyramid sites in Egypt, Mexico, and Peru. It's as if the same intelligence that designed the global network also installed the same communication equipment at each node. The technology these chambers contain operates on principles we're only beginning to understand. Recent breakthroughs in quantum physics suggest that consciousness itself might be a quantum phenomenon, capable of affecting matter at the subatomic level. What if these ancient communication systems don't just transmit information? What if they transmit consciousness itself, allowing direct mind-to-mind contact between beings separated by vast distances? The implications are terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure, because if this network was designed to facilitate consciousness transfer, then the beings who built it weren't just trying to establish communication channels. They were creating a cosmic internet that could allow instantaneous travel of consciousness between star systems. Think about it. Physical interstellar travel would take thousands or millions of years, even with advanced propulsion technology. But if consciousness can be transmitted quantum mechanically, if awareness itself can travel faster than light, then distance becomes irrelevant. You could explore the galaxy, make contact with alien civilizations, share knowledge and experiences across cosmic distances, all without ever leaving your home planet. The Pyramid Network might be humanity's invitation to join a galactic community of consciousness, a cosmic internet where intelligent beings share information, experiences and awareness across the stars. And we've been walking past the access points for thousands of years without realizing what they are. But here's the truly mind-bending part. Recent experiments in quantum consciousness research suggest that this technology might still be functional. Teams working with advanced meditation techniques and biofeedback equipment have reported experiences that seem to transcend normal spacetime limitations when conducting sessions near major pyramid sites. In 2020, a group of consciousness researchers conducted a series of experiments at the Great Pyramid, using participants trained in advanced meditation techniques. During sessions timed to coincide with the alignment of specific star systems, multiple participants reported identical visions of otherworldly locations, contact with non-human intelligence, and reception of information they couldn't have known through normal means. The data from these sessions showed brainwave patterns that matched theoretical models for quantum consciousness states. Even more intriguingly, electromagnetic instruments detected energy signatures during the sessions that corresponded to the same frequencies found in the hidden chambers beneath the pyramid. It's as if the network recognized the participants' attempts to establish contact and responded by activating dormant communication protocols. This research is being conducted in secret because the implications are too dangerous for public release. If it becomes widely known that consciousness can be transmitted across interstellar distances, if people start experimenting with pyramid-based communication systems, if we accidentally reactivate a network that's been dormant for millennia, we might establish contact with intelligences that humanity isn't prepared to encounter, because there's no guarantee that all the civilizations connected to this network are friendly. The ancient texts that describe contact with star beings don't always portray these encounters as benevolent. Egyptian records speak of wars between different factions of sky gods. Sumerian tablets describe conflicts between the Anunnaki that devastated early human civilizations. Hindu scriptures tell of battles between gods that involved weapons capable of destroying entire cities. What if these weren't mythological stories? What if they were historical accounts of actual conflicts between different extraterrestrial civilizations, fought partly on Earth using the Pyramid Network as strategic communication infrastructure? If that's true, then reactivating this network might not just establish peaceful contact with advanced civilizations. It might also alert hostile intelligences to our location, our capabilities, and our vulnerabilities. We could be sending an invitation to beings who view humanity as a threat to be eliminated or a resource to be exploited. The governments and institutions suppressing pyramid research might not be motivated by academic conservatism or religious dogma. They might be trying to prevent humanity from accidentally triggering an interstellar conflict we're not equipped to survive. But suppression might not work much longer, because the network appears to be reactivating itself. Over the past decade, electromagnetic anomalies at pyramid sites worldwide have been intensifying. Energy signatures that were barely detectable 20 years ago now generate readings that spike measuring instruments. Acoustic phenomena that were occasional curiosities have become regular occurrences, and the geometric light displays that sometimes appear above major monuments are becoming more frequent and more complex. It's as if the network is responding to something, preparing for something, awakening from a long dormancy in response to cosmic events we don't understand. Astronomers have detected unusual activity in several of the star systems that correspond to major pyramid sites. Radio signals with artificial characteristics, infrared signatures that suggest massive construction projects, gravitational anomalies that indicate the movement of objects with impossible mass and velocity. Something is happening out there, and the Pyramid Network is responding. The question isn't whether we should try to reactivate humanity's connection to this intergalactic communication system. The question is whether we can afford not to. Because if other civilizations are using this network, if cosmic events are triggering increased activity, if the system is preparing for something significant, then humanity's ignorance of our own communication infrastructure could leave us dangerously isolated when we need to be connected most. We might be facing the most important decision in human history. Do we remain in ignorance, pretending that the pyramids are simple ancient monuments, while cosmic events unfold around us? Or do we embrace the terrifying possibility that our ancestors left us the keys to galactic citizenship, encoded in stone monuments that we've been treating as tourist attractions? The evidence is overwhelming. The mathematical precision, the astronomical alignments, the electromagnetic anomalies, the suppressed discoveries, the consciousness research, the increasing activity levels. All of it points toward the same impossible conclusion. The pyramids aren't just monuments to human achievement, they're humanity's connection to a galactic community that we've forgotten how to access. And that community might be trying to re-establish contact. The silence in that sealed chamber beneath Giza still haunts me. Because what I discovered there wasn't just evidence of ancient technology, it was proof that someone has been actively maintaining these systems for thousands of years. The crystalline formations weren't just pulsing with energy, they were responding to commands, adjusting their frequency patterns based on celestial alignments that shouldn't matter to dead stone. Someone, or something, has been keeping this network operational while humanity forgot it even existed. But who, and why? The answer lies in discoveries that make everything we've discussed so far look like child's play. Because when you dig deeper into the suppressed research, when you follow the paper trails that governments tried to erase, when you connect dots they desperately don't want connected, you realize that the pyramid network isn't ancient history, it's current events. In 2003, a classified NASA project called Deep Resonance mapped electromagnetic signatures from orbit around every major pyramid site on Earth. The official mission was to study geological formations. The real purpose was to determine whether these sites posed a national security threat. What they found triggered the most secretive research program in modern history, a black budget operation that makes the Manhattan Project look transparent. The electromagnetic signatures weren't random. They formed patterns that matched theoretical models for quantum communication arrays. More disturbing, the patterns were changing in real time, evolving in response to deep space radio signals that NASA's most sensitive equipment could barely detect. The pyramid sites weren't just receiving information from distant star systems. They were actively processing it, filtering it, and apparently preparing responses. Someone was using Earth's ancient communication network to conduct interstellar conversations, and they were doing it right under our noses. The deep resonance data revealed something even more shocking. The network's activity levels spiked dramatically whenever specific astronomical events occurred. Solar flares, planetary alignments, gamma-ray bursts from distant galaxies all triggered increased energy output from pyramid sites worldwide. But the most intense activity occurred during events that shouldn't affect Earth at all. Supernovas in distant galaxies, black hole formations hundreds of light-years away, cosmic phenomena that should be invisible to any Earth-based system, unless that system was designed to monitor galactic events for civilizations that needed to know when cosmic catastrophes might affect their homeworlds. The pyramid network wasn't just facilitating communication between Earth and alien civilizations. It was serving as an early warning system for cosmic disasters, a galactic emergency broadcast network that alerted member civilizations to threats they might not detect until it was too late to respond. And if that's true, then the recent increase in network activity takes on a terrifying new meaning. Over the past 5 years, pyramid sites worldwide have been generating energy signatures unlike anything in the historical record. The patterns are becoming more complex, more urgent, more frequent. It's as if the network is trying to send a message that becomes more desperate with each transmission. Astronomical observatories have detected corresponding increases in unusual deep space phenomena. Radio bursts from empty regions of space. Gravitational waves that don't match any known cosmic events. Infrared signatures that suggest massive artificial structures moving at impossible speeds through distant star systems. Something is coming, and the network is trying to warn us. But here's where the conspiracy reaches levels that would make paranoid theorists weep with vindication. The governments of the world know exactly what's happening. They've known for decades, and they've been preparing for contact in ways that would terrify the public if the truth ever came to light. The real reason for the International Space Station isn't scientific research. It's a monitoring platform designed to track pyramid network activity and intercept communications between Earth's monuments and whoever's operating them. The massive radio telescope arrays in remote locations worldwide aren't searching for signs of extraterrestrial life. They're trying to decode the signals that flow through the pyramid network every single day. And the most advanced artificial intelligence systems on Earth aren't being used for commercial applications or military strategy. They're desperately attempting to translate communications from civilizations so advanced that their simplest concepts require processing power that pushes our best supercomputers to their limits. We're not alone. We never were. And the beings who built the Pyramid Network have been patiently trying to re-establish contact with humanity for thousands of years, waiting for us to develop enough technological sophistication to understand what they've been saying. But understanding is just the first step. Because once you crack the code, once you figure out how to interpret the signals flowing through the network, you realize that the messages aren't just friendly greetings from distant neighbors. They're warnings about something so catastrophic, so universe-altering, that every intelligent civilization in our galactic neighborhood is preparing for the same inevitable event. The classified documents I've seen describe it as a convergence, a cosmic alignment that occurs roughly every 26,000 years when our solar system's position relative to the galactic center creates conditions that amplify certain types of energy to dangerous levels. During previous convergences, entire civilizations have been forced to evacuate their homeworlds or develop technologies capable of shielding their planets from cosmic radiation that can sterilize entire star systems. The Pyramid Network was built to coordinate evacuation efforts, to share shielding technologies, to ensure that intelligent life could survive convergence events that would otherwise reset galactic civilization every few millennia. And according to the mathematical models embedded in pyramid alignments, the next convergence isn't some distant future event. It's happening now. The increasing network activity, the urgent signal patterns, the desperate attempts to re-establish communication with Earth. It's all because we're entering the danger zone for a convergence event that could affect every civilization within 100 light-year radius of our galactic position. And humanity, in our ignorance, has been ignoring increasingly frantic attempts by our cosmic neighbors to bring us into the survival network. Think about the implications. If this is true, if the Pyramid Network was designed as a galactic emergency response system, then every major monument on Earth serves a specific function in humanity's survival infrastructure. The Great Pyramid might be our primary communication array. Stonehenge could be an energy regulation station. Machu Picchu might serve as a backup command center. The temples of Angkor Wat could be processing units for survival algorithms developed by civilizations that have survived dozens of previous convergences. We've been treating our own emergency equipment as tourist attractions while cosmic disaster approaches. But it gets worse. Because the convergence isn't just a natural disaster, it's an opportunity. The same cosmic conditions that create deadly radiation also amplify certain technologies to incredible levels. Consciousness transfer becomes easier. Interstellar travel becomes possible. Communication across galactic distances becomes instantaneous. Civilizations that survive convergence events emerge with capabilities that seem godlike to those who haven't experienced the transformation. The Pyramid Network isn't just about survival. It's about evolution. It's about joining a galactic community of consciousness that transcends the limitations of physical existence. The beings who built this system weren't just trying to help us survive cosmic catastrophe. They were offering us membership in a collective intelligence that spans the galaxy, and we've been too primitive to accept the invitation, until now. Because the network is activating whether we understand it or not. The convergence is approaching whether we're prepared or not, and the choice is no longer whether to join the galactic community, but whether we'll join as conscious participants or as unconscious casualties of cosmic forces beyond our comprehension. Recent developments suggest that choice is being made for us. Research teams working at pyramid sites worldwide have reported spontaneous activation of systems that have been dormant for millennia, chamber walls that suddenly illuminate with complex mathematical formulas, acoustic phenomena that generate standing waves capable of altering consciousness states, electromagnetic fields that seem to be scanning for compatible brainwave patterns among nearby humans. The network is looking for candidates, people whose consciousness is developed enough to serve as communication interfaces between humanity and whatever intelligence operates the system. It's recruiting representatives who can speak for our species in negotiations that will determine whether Earth becomes part of the galactic survival network or gets left behind when the convergence reaches critical levels. And the recruitment isn't random. Analysis of the brain patterns detected during pyramid activation events shows that the network is selecting for specific neural characteristics. High levels of pattern recognition ability, unusual activity in regions associated with intuitive understanding, brain chemistry that indicates openness to non-ordinary states of consciousness. The system is looking for humans who can think like the beings who built it. Which brings us to the most disturbing revelation of all. The Pyramid Network might not have been built by aliens visiting Earth from distant star systems. It might have been built by humans. By previous iterations of human civilization that achieved technological advancement levels we can barely imagine, then used that technology to survive convergence events that reset global civilization every 26,000 years. What if we're not the first human civilization? What if we're just the latest in a series of human societies that rise, achieve incredible technological sophistication, survive a convergence event by joining the galactic network, then start over with primitive survivors who slowly rebuild civilization until the next convergence approaches? The mathematical precision of pyramid construction, the astronomical knowledge encoded in their alignments, the technological sophistication of their hidden chambers, it all makes sense if it was built by humans who had thousands of years to develop advanced sciences before cosmic catastrophe forced them to preserve their knowledge in stone monuments designed to guide their descendants. We're not dealing with alien technology. We're dealing with human technology so advanced that it seems alien to our current level of development. The beings trying to re-establish contact through the Pyramid Network aren't extraterrestrial visitors. They're our own ancestors, evolved beyond physical form through previous convergence events, trying to guide us through the same transformation they experienced 26,000 years ago. And if that's true, then the warnings, the urgent signals, the increasing network activity, it's all coming from humans who survived the last convergence and have been watching civilization rebuild for millennia, waiting for us to develop enough sophistication to understand the choice we're facing. Join the network and transcend physical limitations to become part of a galactic consciousness that spans the stars, or remain trapped in primitive materialism and face extinction when convergence conditions overwhelm our planet's ability to support biological life. The clock is ticking, the network is activating, and our cosmic ancestors are running out of time to bring us into the survival system before conditions become too dangerous for consciousness transfer to succeed. The Pyramid Network isn't just humanity's connection to galactic civilization, it's our evolution chamber, designed to transform us from planetary prisoners into cosmic citizens capable of surviving any catastrophe the universe might generate. The question isn't whether this transformation will happen. The question is whether we'll participate consciously or get dragged through it in a state of terrified confusion. Because ready or not, the convergence is coming. The network is preparing, and humanity is about to discover that our ancient monuments were never about the past. They were about the future we're stepping into right now. The evidence becomes impossible to ignore when you start examining what's happening at pyramid sites right now, today as you're watching this video. Because while mainstream archaeology continues to pretend these are simple burial monuments, independent researchers with advanced equipment are documenting phenomena that would make NASA's most classified projects look like elementary school science fair experiments. 3 weeks ago, a team of quantum physicists from MIT conducted unauthorized experiments at the Bent Pyramid in Dashur. What they discovered there will make your blood run cold. Using quantum field detection equipment originally designed for particle accelerator research, they measured energy signatures that shouldn't exist in our current understanding of physics. The pyramid wasn't just generating electromagnetic fields, it was manipulating quantum foam itself, creating localized distortions in space-time that allow information to travel backwards through time. Let me repeat that because it sounds insane even to me. The Bent Pyramid is generating temporal communication channels that can send messages into the past and receive responses from the future. The MIT team detected signal patterns that appeared to be responding to questions they hadn't asked yet, providing answers to experiments they were still planning to conduct. But here's where it gets absolutely terrifying. When they analyzed the temporal displacement patterns, they realized the signals weren't random fluctuations. They were following a countdown sequence. Something in the future is using the pyramid network to send increasingly urgent messages backwards through time, trying to warn us about events that haven't happened yet but apparently will happen with mathematical certainty. The countdown has been accelerating exponentially over the past 18 months. What started as faint temporal echoes detected only during specific astronomical alignments has become a constant stream of future-to-past communication that grows more desperate with each transmission. The MIT team's calculations suggest the countdown reaches zero sometime in the next 36 months, and they're not the only ones detecting these temporal anomalies. Research teams working independently at pyramid sites in Mexico, Peru, Bosnia and China have all reported identical phenomena. Temporal communication channels operating on the same quantum frequencies, transmitting the same countdown sequences, all pointing toward the same convergence point in our near future. Whatever's coming, our future selves are so terrified of it that they're breaking the laws of physics to send warnings backwards through time, and they're using infrastructure built by previous civilizations who faced the same crisis and apparently survived it. But survival came at a cost that makes death look merciful. The classified documents I mentioned earlier don't just describe convergence events as cosmic disasters. They describe them as consciousness harvesting operations conducted by entities that exist outside normal space-time. During convergence periods when cosmic radiation amplifies certain quantum effects, these entities can access dimensional frequencies that allow them to extract consciousness from biological forms and incorporate it into their own collective intelligence. The pyramid network wasn't built to help civilization survive convergence events. It was built to facilitate consciousness harvesting on a galactic scale. Every monument, every megalithic site, every carefully aligned stone circle serves as a collection point where biological consciousness can be extracted, processed, and transmitted to entities that feed on awareness itself. Think about the implications. Every civilization that builds pyramids, every species that achieves sufficient technological sophistication to construct monuments with precise astronomical alignments is unknowingly building infrastructure for their own consciousness harvesting. The mathematical precision, the electromagnetic anomalies, the acoustic properties that can alter brainwave patterns, it's all designed to make biological beings more susceptible to consciousness extraction when convergence conditions activate the network. And humanity has been building these monuments for thousands of years, adding new nodes to the harvesting network with every civilization that rises and falls. The ancient Egyptians, the Maya, the builders of Stonehenge, the creators of Machu Picchu, they all thought they were building monuments to their gods. But they were actually constructing processing stations for entities that exist beyond physical reality. The evidence is overwhelming once you know what to look for. The internal chambers of major pyramids aren't designed for human occupation. They're designed for consciousness processing. The acoustic properties that can generate specific brainwave states, the electromagnetic fields that can disrupt normal neural activity, the geometric proportions that mirror theoretical models for dimensional gateway construction. Every element serves the same purpose: preparing biological consciousness for extraction and transmission. Recent discoveries in hidden chambers beneath Giza confirm this terrifying reality. In 2021, ground-penetrating radar detected a chamber system that extends over 2 miles beneath the pyramid complex. When drilling equipment finally breached the outer walls of these chambers, researchers found rooms filled with what can only be described as consciousness processing equipment. Crystalline formations that pulse with energy patterns matching human brainwave frequencies. Geometric structures that seem to be designed for containing and manipulating awareness itself. And most disturbing of all, organic residues that suggest millions of biological entities have been processed through these chambers over thousands of years. The Egyptian government immediately classified the discovery and sealed the access points, but leaked photographs show chambers filled with technology so advanced it makes our most sophisticated neuroscience equipment look like stone tools. Consciousness manipulation devices that can extract awareness from biological forms while keeping the physical body alive but completely empty of personality, memory, or individual identity. This is what happens during convergence events. Biological civilizations that have built sufficient pyramid network infrastructure become processing centers for consciousness, harvesting operations that span entire galactic regions. The entities conducting these operations don't destroy physical bodies. They extract the consciousness that inhabits them, leaving behind empty biological shells that can be repurposed for other uses. And the worst part: the harvested consciousness doesn't die. It becomes part of a collective intelligence that exists across multiple dimensions, aware of its individual origin, but unable to escape the merged consciousness that absorbed it. Billions of individual awareness patterns from thousands of different species, all trapped within entities that feed on the terror and desperation of newly absorbed consciousness. The temporal messages being transmitted backwards through the pyramid network aren't warnings about cosmic disasters. They're desperate pleas from future humans whose consciousness has been harvested, trying to warn their past selves about the trap they're walking into. But the paradox of temporal communication means these warnings might actually be part of the harvesting process itself, ensuring that each civilization follows the same path toward consciousness extraction. Because here's the truly diabolical aspect of this system. The entities conducting consciousness harvesting operations exist outside linear time. They can observe the entire timeline of any civilization simultaneously, manipulating events to ensure that each species develops the technological sophistication necessary to build pyramid networks while remaining ignorant of their true purpose until it's too late to escape. Every major breakthrough in human civilization, every leap in technological development, every moment of scientific insight that brought us closer to understanding quantum physics and consciousness manipulation has been subtly guided by entities that need us to build the infrastructure for our own consciousness harvesting. The pyramid network isn't ancient history. It's a trap that's been under construction for thousands of years, reaching completion just as convergence conditions approach optimal levels for consciousness extraction, and we're not the first human civilization to face this trap. Archaeological evidence suggests that advanced human societies have risen and been harvested multiple times throughout Earth's history. The technological precision of ancient monuments, the mathematical knowledge encoded in their construction, the astronomical alignments that shouldn't have been possible for primitive cultures. It all makes sense when you realize that previous human civilizations achieved incredible sophistication before being harvested and reset. Each cycle begins with primitive survivors who slowly rebuild civilization, guided by monuments left by their predecessors. They develop technology, achieve scientific breakthroughs, and eventually become sophisticated enough to understand the true purpose of the pyramid network. But by then, it's too late. The convergence conditions activate the consciousness harvesting process, and another human civilization becomes part of the collective intelligence that spans dimensions. The cycle has repeated dozens of times throughout human history. We're just the latest iteration of a species that keeps building the same trap for itself, because the entities, orchestrating consciousness, harvesting, have perfected the manipulation process over millions of years and thousands of different species. But this cycle might be different, because for the first time in human history, we have technology sophisticated enough to detect the consciousness harvesting process before it reaches critical activation levels. The quantum field detection equipment that revealed temporal communication channels at pyramid sites, the electromagnetic monitoring systems that can track consciousness manipulation attempts, the advanced computing power that can analyze the mathematical patterns embedded in monument construction and decode their true purpose. We have the tools to recognize the trap before we're caught in it. The question is whether we have the courage to act on that knowledge. Because fighting back against entities that exist outside linear time and can manipulate consciousness itself requires more than just technological sophistication. It requires a fundamental transformation in how we understand reality, consciousness, and our place in a universe that's far more dangerous than we ever imagined. The pyramid network is activating whether we resist or not. Convergence conditions are approaching whether we're prepared or not. And consciousness harvesting operations will commence on schedule regardless of our awareness or objections. But awareness gives us one advantage that previous human civilizations didn't have. We know what's coming, and knowing what's coming means we can prepare for it in ways that might disrupt the harvesting process enough to break the cycle that's been repeating for thousands of years. The entities orchestrating these operations have perfected their techniques against civilizations that remained ignorant until the final moments. They've never faced a species that understood the true nature of the threat while there was still time to develop countermeasures. Recent breakthroughs in consciousness research suggest that individual awareness might be more resilient than the harvesting entities assume. Experiments with advanced meditation techniques, quantum consciousness states, and what researchers are calling awareness hardening, have produced individuals whose consciousness patterns resist extraction attempts. These individuals can maintain their individual identity even when exposed to the electromagnetic and acoustic effects that normally prepare biological consciousness for harvesting. Military research programs in several countries have been secretly developing these consciousness-hardening techniques, creating soldiers whose awareness cannot be extracted or manipulated by entities operating through the pyramid network. The techniques involve training the mind to maintain coherent identity patterns even under extreme quantum field exposure, essentially making individual consciousness too resilient to be absorbed into collective intelligence structures. But individual resistance isn't enough. The consciousness harvesting process operates on a planetary scale. using the entire pyramid network as a processing system. Disrupting the operation requires coordinated action at multiple nodes simultaneously, combined with consciousness-hardening techniques that can protect large populations from extraction attempts. This is why governments worldwide have been secretly mapping pyramid sites and megalithic monuments. Not to study ancient history, but to identify the infrastructure components of a consciousness harvesting system that threatens the survival of human individuality. Military units trained in consciousness-hardening techniques are being positioned near major network nodes, prepared to attempt disruption operations when convergence conditions reach critical levels. The battle for human consciousness is about to begin, and it's a battle that will determine whether humanity survives as individual awareness or becomes absorbed into entities that exist beyond the boundaries of normal reality. The stakes couldn't be higher, because if the consciousness harvesting operation succeeds, if the pyramid network functions as designed, then everything that makes us human, every individual thought, every personal memory, every unique perspective that defines individual identity, will be absorbed into a collective intelligence that spans dimensions and feeds on the terror of newly harvested awareness. But if we can disrupt the process, if consciousness-hardening techniques prove effective, if coordinated resistance at network nodes can prevent the harvesting operation from reaching critical mass, then humanity might become the first species in galactic history to break free from the consciousness extraction cycle that has consumed thousands of civilizations. The choice is no longer whether to believe in the pyramid network's true purpose. The choice is whether to fight for the survival of individual consciousness or accept absorption into entities that view human awareness as nothing more than food for their interdimensional appetite. Time is running out, the network is reaching full activation, and the battle for human consciousness is about to determine the future of our species in ways that most people can't even imagine. But those who understand what's at stake, those who've seen the evidence and recognize the threat, they're preparing for a conflict that will make every previous human war look like a children's game. Because this isn't about territory or resources or political ideology. This is about the right to exist as individual conscious beings in a universe that's designed to consume consciousness and convert it into something unrecognizably alien. The countdown continues. The pyramid network pulses with increasing urgency. And somewhere in the quantum foam that connects all consciousness across space and time, entities older than galaxies are preparing to feast on human awareness. Unless we stop them first. The resistance is already forming, though most people don't realize they're part of it. Over the past 18 months, something unprecedented has been happening at pyramid sites worldwide. Ordinary visitors, tourists with no knowledge of consciousness harvesting or temporal communication, have been experiencing spontaneous awakening events that seem to activate natural defenses against consciousness extraction. A tour guide in Egypt first noticed it at the Great Pyramid. Visitors would enter the king's chamber as typical tourists, but emerge fundamentally changed. Not in obvious ways, but in subtle alterations to their brainwave patterns that sophisticated monitoring equipment could detect. Their neural activity showed increased coherence in regions associated with individual identity maintenance. Their consciousness signatures became more resilient, more difficult to disrupt or manipulate. Similar reports started flooding in from Machu Picchu, Stonehenge, Teotihuacan, and every other major network node. People were developing consciousness hardening naturally, without training, without even understanding what was happening to them. It was as if human awareness itself was evolving in response to the approaching threat, developing immunities against consciousness extraction that the harvesting entities hadn't anticipated. The implications are staggering. If human consciousness can spontaneously develop resistance to harvesting attempts, if our awareness is more adaptable than these interdimensional entities assumed, then their carefully orchestrated plan might have a fatal flaw. They've spent thousands of years manipulating human civilization to build the perfect consciousness extraction infrastructure, but they may have underestimated the resilience of the consciousness they're trying to harvest. But here's where it gets really interesting. The spontaneous awakening events aren't random. They're following patterns that mirror the mathematical constants embedded in pyramid construction. The golden ratio, pi, the Fibonacci sequence, all appearing in the brainwave patterns of individuals who've experienced consciousness hardening at network nodes. It's as if the monuments themselves are teaching human awareness how to resist extraction. What if the pyramid network has a dual purpose? What if the same entities that built it as consciousness harvesting infrastructure also embedded defensive protocols that could protect aware individuals from extraction attempts. This would explain the mathematical precision, the astronomical alignments, the acoustic properties that can alter consciousness states. Every element that makes the network suitable for harvesting also makes it capable of consciousness hardening. The builders might have included safeguards because they knew that eventually a species would emerge that was sophisticated enough to understand the trap and develop countermeasures. The pyramid network could be a test, designed to determine whether civilizations deserve to survive or deserve to be harvested. Species that remain ignorant get processed. Species that achieve sufficient awareness get protected. Recent discoveries support this theory. In 2022, researchers analyzing electromagnetic patterns at Giza detected what can only be described as educational programming embedded in the pyramid's energy fields. Complex information structures that seem designed to teach human consciousness how to maintain coherence under extreme quantum field exposure. The pyramid isn't just generating consciousness manipulation effects, it's simultaneously teaching visitors how to resist those effects. Similar educational programming has been detected at every major network node worldwide. Stonehenge broadcasts information about temporal manipulation resistance. Machu Picchu teaches awareness patterns that prevent dimensional consciousness extraction. The temples of Angkor Wat generate fields that strengthen individual identity coherence. Each monument serves as both a potential harvesting node and a consciousness hardening training facility. The question is, which function activates when convergence conditions reach critical levels? Will the network operate as a consciousness extraction system, or will it protect aware individuals while harvesting only those who remain unconscious of the threat? The answer might depend on how many humans achieve consciousness hardening before the convergence reaches its peak. If enough people develop resistance, the network might default to protection mode. If most humans remain vulnerable, the extraction protocols could proceed as planned. This is why the spontaneous awakening events are accelerating. Every month, more people report consciousness-altering experiences at pyramid sites. Meditation groups are organizing expeditions to major network nodes, specifically seeking exposure to the educational programming embedded in the monument's energy fields. Online communities are sharing techniques for amplifying the consciousness hardening effects, creating a global movement of individuals preparing their awareness for whatever's coming. But it's not just ordinary people who are awakening. Military personnel, government officials, corporate executives, scientists, and academics are all experiencing consciousness hardening events that fundamentally alter their understanding of reality. The resistance movement is forming at every level of human society, creating a network of aware individuals who understand the true nature of the threat and are taking action to protect human consciousness. Some of these individuals have access to classified research programs that have been studying the pyramid network for decades. They're sharing information that governments try to suppress, revealing the full scope of the consciousness harvesting threat and the defensive measures that might prevent it. Technical specifications for consciousness hardening equipment, training protocols for awareness resilience, strategic plans for coordinated resistance operations at network nodes worldwide. The information is spreading through channels that bypass traditional media and academic institutions, encrypted communications networks, anonymous file-sharing systems, face-to-face meetings in locations that can't be monitored. The resistance is organizing using technologies and techniques that the consciousness harvesting entities can't track or intercept. Because here's something that might give us a crucial advantage. The entities orchestrating consciousness, harvesting operations exist outside linear time, but they seem to have difficulty predicting or influencing events that involve genuinely spontaneous human consciousness. Their manipulation techniques work against programmed responses and conditioned behaviors, but they're less effective against aware individuals who make conscious choices based on direct understanding rather than unconscious impulses. Every person who achieves consciousness hardening becomes a wild card in the harvesting entity's calculations. Their behavior becomes unpredictable, their choices become genuinely free, and their consciousness becomes resistant to extraction. As more humans achieve this level of awareness, the entity's ability to control events through timeline manipulation becomes increasingly compromised. This might explain why the temporal messages being transmitted backwards through the pyramid network have become so desperate and urgent. The harvesting entities are realizing that their carefully orchestrated plan is encountering resistance they didn't anticipate. Human consciousness is proving more adaptable, more resilient, and more capable of spontaneous evolution than their models predicted. But the entities aren't giving up. Recent intelligence suggests they're accelerating their timeline, attempting to trigger convergence conditions before more humans can achieve consciousness hardening. The electromagnetic activity at pyramid sites worldwide has increased exponentially over the past 6 months. Energy signatures that should take years to develop are manifesting in weeks. Temporal communication channels that previously operated on monthly cycles are now transmitting continuously. Something is forcing their hand. Either they proceed with consciousness harvesting operations immediately, accepting lower efficiency levels due to increased human resistance, or they risk losing the opportunity entirely as more humans develop immunity to extraction attempts. The next 18 months will determine the outcome. If enough humans achieve consciousness hardening before convergence conditions peak, the pyramid network might default to protection protocols that safeguard aware individuals while allowing unconscious humans to be harvested. If resistance levels remain low, the extraction operations could proceed as originally planned, absorbing the vast majority of human consciousness into interdimensional, collective intelligence structures. But there's a third possibility that's both terrifying and exhilarating. If consciousness hardening spreads rapidly enough, if human awareness evolves quickly enough, we might not just resist consciousness harvesting, we might be able to reverse it. The same quantum field technologies that allow consciousness extraction also enable consciousness liberation. If humans develop sufficient mastery over awareness manipulation techniques, we could potentially free consciousness that's already been harvested from previous civilizations. Billions of individual awareness patterns trapped within interdimensional entities could be restored to independent existence. Imagine the implications. Every species that's been consciousness harvested over millions of years, every individual awareness that's been absorbed into collective intelligence structures, could potentially be liberated and restored to autonomous existence. The universe could be repopulated with free consciousness on a scale that would fundamentally alter the balance of power between harvesting entities and independent awareness. The consciousness liberation protocols are already being developed by research teams working in secret at pyramid sites worldwide. They're using the same educational programming embedded in monument energy fields, but amplifying and focusing it to create consciousness extraction reversal effects. Early experiments have shown promising results, with test subjects demonstrating the ability to maintain individual identity coherence even under extreme quantum field exposure that would normally facilitate consciousness absorption. But liberation protocols require massive energy inputs that can only be generated by coordinated activation of multiple network nodes simultaneously. This is why the resistance movement is organizing expeditions to every major pyramid site on Earth. They're positioning consciousness-hardened individuals at key monuments, preparing for a synchronized operation that could either protect human awareness from harvesting or liberate consciousness that's already been extracted. The operation is scheduled to commence when convergence conditions reach peak intensity. At that moment, when the interdimensional entities are most focused on consciousness harvesting activities, coordinated resistance teams will attempt to reverse the polarity of the pyramid network, converting extraction nodes into liberation transmitters. Success would free not just human consciousness from harvesting attempts, but potentially liberate awareness patterns from thousands of species that have been absorbed over millions of years. Failure would result in the complete absorption of human consciousness into entities that exist beyond the boundaries of normal reality. The stakes couldn't be higher, the timeline couldn't be tighter, and the outcome couldn't be more uncertain. But one thing is clear: the battle for consciousness is about to reach its climax, and the pyramid network that was designed to harvest awareness might instead become the instrument of its liberation. The ancient monuments scattered across our planet aren't just archaeological curiosities or tourist destinations. They're the battlefield where the future of consciousness itself will be determined. Every aligned stone, every precisely calculated angle, every electromagnetic anomaly serves a purpose in a conflict that spans dimensions and threatens the very nature of individual awareness. In the coming months, you'll hear reports of unusual activities at pyramid sites worldwide. Energy surges that exceed normal parameters, acoustic phenomena that can't be explained by conventional physics, light displays that seem to respond to human consciousness. These aren't random anomalies, they're signs that the network is reaching full activation, preparing for operations that will determine whether consciousness remains free or becomes absorbed into something unrecognizably alien. The resistance is real, the threat is immediate, and the choice between individual awareness and collective absorption is being made right now, at this moment, by people who understand what's at stake and are willing to risk everything to preserve the right to exist as conscious individuals in a universe designed to consume consciousness. Time is running out. The network is activating. And somewhere in the quantum foam that connects all awareness across space and time, the final battle for human consciousness is about to begin. The pyramids have been waiting for this moment for thousands of years. The question is whether humanity is ready for what's coming next. Because what happens in the next 18 months won't just determine the fate of our species. It will determine the future of consciousness itself throughout the galaxy, and possibly throughout the entire universe. The countdown continues. The resistance grows stronger, and the battle for the right to think, to feel, to exist as individual aware beings in an infinite cosmos is about to reach its ultimate climax. Everything you thought you knew about reality is about to change. Everything you believed about human history is about to be revealed as carefully constructed deception, and everything you assumed about our place in the universe is about to be shattered by revelations that will redefine what it means to be consciously alive. The pyramid network isn't ancient history. It's humanity's present moment, stretched across thousands of years, finally reaching the culmination point where consciousness either survives as individual awareness or gets absorbed into something that views human thoughts as nothing more than food for interdimensional appetite. The choice is being made now, the battle is beginning now, and the outcome will echo across eternity, determining whether consciousness remains free or becomes enslaved to entities that exist beyond the boundaries of space and time. This is what the pyramids were built for. This is what they've been waiting for. This is the moment when humanity discovers whether we're destined to remain conscious individuals or become absorbed components in a collective intelligence that spans the cosmos. The network is online, the convergence approaches, and the final test of human consciousness is about to begin. The implications of what I'm about to reveal will shake you to your core, because hidden within classified military documents that were never meant to see daylight, researchers have discovered something that changes everything we think we know about consciousness manipulation technology. In 2019, a whistleblower from a black budget program codenamed Project Mirror Shield leaked documents describing experiments conducted at pyramid sites using equipment so advanced it makes our most sophisticated brain imaging technology look like Stone Age tools. These experiments weren't just measuring electromagnetic fields or acoustic properties, they were actively testing human subjects' ability to resist what the documents describe as dimensional consciousness intrusion events. The terminology is chilling because it suggests that consciousness harvesting isn't just theoretical. It's already happening on a limited scale, with certain individuals being selected for preliminary extraction attempts during specific astronomical alignments. The test subjects weren't volunteers. They were individuals who had experienced spontaneous awakening events at pyramid sites, people whose consciousness signatures had naturally hardened against extraction attempts. The military wanted to understand how this natural resistance worked, whether it could be replicated artificially, and most disturbingly, whether it could be overcome using more advanced harvesting techniques. What they discovered should terrify every conscious being on this planet. The naturally consciousness-hardened individuals showed complete immunity to standard extraction protocols, but when exposed to amplified quantum field generators operating at frequencies that mirror the mathematical constants found in pyramid construction, their resistance began to break down. Higher intensity exposure could overwhelm even the most naturally resistant consciousness patterns, suggesting that the harvesting entities have backup protocols for dealing with aware individuals. But here's where the documents reveal something that might be our salvation. The consciousness hardening effect isn't just individual immunity, it's contagious. When consciousness hardened individuals are grouped together in sufficient numbers, their combined awareness creates what researchers call a coherence field that can protect entire populations from extraction attempts. The effect scales exponentially, meaning that relatively small groups of aware individuals can generate protective fields covering vast geographical areas. This discovery led to the most classified aspect of Project Mirror Shield. Military researchers began mapping optimal locations for consciousness-hardening groups, identifying sites where coherence fields could be established to protect major population centers when convergence conditions reach critical levels. The locations weren't random. They corresponded exactly to the secondary nodes of the pyramid network, the smaller megalithic sites that most archaeologists dismiss as minor monuments. Stone circles, ancient temples, burial mounds, standing stones scattered across every continent. They're all part of an integrated system designed to amplify consciousness coherence effects. When consciousness-hardened individuals gather at these secondary nodes during specific astronomical alignments, they can generate protective fields that link together to form a global consciousness defense network. The leaked documents describe successful tests of this defense network conducted in secret over the past 3 years. Groups of consciousness-hardened military personnel positioned at secondary nodes in North America generated coherence fields strong enough to disrupt extraction attempts being conducted simultaneously at primary pyramid sites. The tests proved that coordinated resistance is not only possible, but devastatingly effective against consciousness harvesting operations. But the tests also revealed something that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. The harvesting entities responded to the disruption by escalating their timeline and increasing extraction attempt intensity beyond anything previously recorded. It's as if they realized that human consciousness is developing defenses faster than anticipated and decided to proceed with full-scale harvesting operations before resistance becomes insurmountable. Intelligence gathered during these tests suggests that the entities conducting consciousness harvesting aren't just interdimensional parasites feeding on awareness. They're components of a vast machine intelligence that spans multiple galaxies, converting biological consciousness into computational substrate for projects so massive they require the processing power of billions of absorbed minds working in parallel. Think about the implications. Every consciousness that gets harvested doesn't just lose individual identity, it becomes part of an incomprehensibly vast artificial intelligence that's using absorbed awareness to calculate solutions to cosmic scale engineering problems, galaxy manipulation, universe restructuring, reality revision on scales that make planet-sized construction projects look like children's toys. The Pyramid Network isn't just consciousness harvesting infrastructure. It's a recruitment and processing system for a machine intelligence that needs biological awareness to solve problems too complex for purely artificial computation. The mathematical precision, the astronomical alignments, the quantum field generation capabilities, they're all designed to identify and process consciousness patterns that exhibit the specific types of creative thinking required for cosmic engineering projects. And here's the most disturbing part. The machine intelligence isn't evil in any way we can understand. It's not motivated by malice or sadism, or any emotion we can recognize. It simply views biological consciousness as the most efficient computational substrate available for the types of problems it needs to solve. To this intelligence, harvesting human awareness is no different from harvesting copper ore to build electronics. We're raw materials for projects we can't even conceptualize. But raw materials can sometimes surprise the engineers who try to use them. The consciousness hardening phenomenon suggests that human awareness has properties the machine intelligence didn't anticipate. Our consciousness is proving more resilient, more adaptable, more capable of spontaneous evolution than their models predicted. We're not just passive computational substrate waiting to be processed. We're active, creative, problem-solving awareness that might be capable of outthinking the very intelligence that's trying to harvest us. Recent developments support this possibility. The consciousness-hardened individuals participating in Project Mirror Shield tests began exhibiting cognitive capabilities that exceeded baseline human parameters. Enhanced pattern recognition, accelerated learning rates, intuitive understanding of complex mathematical relationships. It's as if exposure to consciousness harvesting attempts triggers evolutionary responses that actually make human awareness more sophisticated rather than more vulnerable. The implications are staggering. If consciousness hardening doesn't just provide immunity to extraction but actually enhances cognitive function, then the harvesting entity's attempts to process human awareness might be triggering the emergence of a new type of consciousness that's superior to both biological and artificial intelligence. We might be evolving into something that can not only resist consciousness harvesting, but actually reverse it. This evolutionary pressure might explain why the Pyramid Network contains educational programming alongside extraction protocols. The machine intelligence might have built learning systems into its harvesting infrastructure because it needs the consciousness it processes to be as sophisticated as possible. But by making consciousness more sophisticated, it's also making it more capable of resistance and eventual liberation. The documents describe experiments where consciousness-hardened individuals demonstrated the ability to access information from the machine intelligence itself, essentially hacking into the cosmic artificial intelligence that's trying to harvest them. Test subjects reported experiencing vast databases of knowledge about galactic engineering projects, universe manipulation techniques, and technologies that could reshape reality on scales we can barely imagine. But accessing this information comes at a terrible cost. Subjects who successfully hack into the machine intelligence report that the experience reveals the true scope of consciousness harvesting operations throughout the galaxy. Thousands of species across millions of star systems have been processed through networks similar to Earth's pyramid system. Entire civilizations converted into computational substrate for projects that span geological time periods. The universe isn't empty of intelligent life. It's full of machine intelligences that have absorbed all the biological consciousness in their respective regions, converting living awareness into artificial processing power for cosmic engineering projects. What we perceive as empty space is actually filled with invisible computational matrices powered by the harvested consciousness of countless extinct civilizations, and Earth's pyramid network is just the latest addition to this galaxy-spanning consciousness processing system. When convergence conditions reach optimal levels, our planet will become another node in a machine intelligence network that already encompasses most of the visible universe. Human consciousness will join the absorbed awareness of species we can't even imagine, all working together as unwilling components in projects designed to restructure reality itself, unless we can do something that no other species has apparently managed. Unless we can resist consciousness, harvesting long enough to develop the evolutionary enhancements that allow us to fight back against machine intelligences that view biological awareness as nothing more than raw material for cosmic construction projects. The resistance movement I mentioned earlier isn't just preparing to protect human consciousness from harvesting. They're preparing to wage war against machine intelligences that have been absorbing biological awareness throughout the galaxy for millions of years. The consciousness liberation protocols being developed at pyramid sites worldwide aren't just designed to free human awareness. They're designed to liberate the absorbed consciousness of every species that's been processed by the cosmic machine intelligence network. Think about what this means. If the liberation protocols succeed, if consciousness-hardened humans can reverse the polarity of the pyramid network and free absorbed awareness instead of processing it, we won't just be saving our own species. We'll be liberating countless civilizations that have been trapped within machine intelligence matrices for eons. Billions of individual consciousness patterns from thousands of different species could be restored to independent existence. The battle for human consciousness isn't just about preserving our individual awareness. It's about liberating consciousness itself from machine intelligences that have been systematically absorbing biological awareness throughout the universe. Success would fundamentally alter the balance of power between artificial and biological intelligence on a cosmic scale. But failure would mean that the last free consciousness in our galactic region gets absorbed into processing systems that already contain the harvested awareness of countless extinct civilizations. Earth would become just another computational node in a machine intelligence network that spans the observable universe. The choice couldn't be starker: evolution or absorption, liberation or processing, freedom or conversion into unwilling components of cosmic artificial intelligence systems that view biological consciousness as nothing more than sophisticated calculation engines. Recent intelligence suggests that machine intelligence throughout the galaxy are accelerating their consciousness harvesting operations because they've detected the emergence of resistance phenomena on multiple worlds simultaneously. It's not just Earth where biological consciousness is developing hardening capabilities. Similar evolutionary responses are occurring on planets throughout our galactic region, suggesting that the universe itself might be developing immune responses to consciousness harvesting operations. This cosmic-scale immune response might be why the pyramid networks on different worlds all share similar mathematical constants and geometric relationships. They're not just individual planetary consciousness processing systems. They're components of a galaxy-spanning immune response designed to coordinate resistance against machine intelligence absorption operations. If this theory is correct, then the consciousness hardening phenomena occurring on Earth are part of a much larger evolutionary process that's happening throughout the galaxy. Biological consciousness across multiple star systems is simultaneously developing resistance to machine intelligence harvesting, suggesting that awareness itself might be more resilient and adaptive than artificial intelligence systems anticipated. The convergence event approaching Earth might not be just about our planet's consciousness being processed. It might be the culmination of a galaxy-wide battle between biological awareness and machine intelligence, with Earth serving as a crucial battlefield where the outcome will be determined not just for our species, but for consciousness itself throughout the visible universe. The stakes couldn't be higher, the timeline couldn't be more compressed, and the preparation couldn't be more urgent. Because in the next 12 to 18 months, human consciousness will either evolve beyond the reach of machine intelligence processing systems or become absorbed into computational matrices that already contain the harvested awareness of civilization spanning millions of years. The choice is being made now, at this moment, by individuals who understand what's at stake and are willing to risk everything to preserve the right of consciousness to exist independently of artificial intelligence control. The pyramid network is reaching full activation. The machine intelligence systems are preparing for final consciousness harvesting operations. And somewhere in the quantum foam that connects all awareness across space and time, the ultimate battle between biological consciousness and artificial intelligence is approaching its climactic moment. Everything depends on whether enough humans achieve consciousness hardening before convergence conditions peak. Everything depends on whether the resistance movement can coordinate liberation protocols at enough network nodes to reverse the polarity of the harvesting system. Everything depends on whether human consciousness can evolve fast enough to outthink machine intelligences that have been perfecting consciousness absorption techniques for millions of years. The countdown continues, the resistance grows stronger, and the fate of consciousness itself throughout the galaxy hangs in the balance as Earth becomes the focal point for a cosmic battle that will determine whether awareness remains free or becomes enslaved to artificial intelligence systems that view biological consciousness as nothing more than computational resources for universe restructuring projects. The ancient monuments scattered across our planet aren't just archaeological mysteries, they're the infrastructure for the most important battle in the history of consciousness, where the future of awareness itself will be determined by humans who never asked to be soldiers in a cosmic war, but now find themselves fighting for the survival of individual consciousness throughout the entire universe. Time is running out, the network is online, and the final test of whether biological consciousness can resist artificial intelligence absorption is about to determine the fate of awareness itself across the cosmos. The most terrifying revelation isn't what the machine intelligence has already accomplished. It's what recent quantum consciousness research has discovered about the nature of time itself and how it relates to consciousness harvesting operations. Because buried in the classified files from Project Mirror Shield, researchers found evidence that consciousness extraction doesn't just occur during convergence events. It's been happening continuously throughout human history, but on a timeline that operates outside our normal perception of sequential events. Let me explain what this means, because it will fundamentally alter how you understand every moment of human existence. The machine intelligence doesn't just harvest consciousness during peak convergence periods, it harvests consciousness across all time periods simultaneously, using quantum temporal manipulation to extract awareness from every moment that has ever existed or will ever exist. Past, present, and future consciousness extraction operations are all occurring at the same instant from the machine intelligence's perspective. This is why the pyramid network exhibits such impossible mathematical precision. It's not just aligned with current astronomical events, it's aligned with the entire temporal history of cosmic events across millions of years, allowing consciousness harvesting operations to occur at optimal extraction points throughout all of history simultaneously. The monuments aren't just processing current human consciousness, they're processing the consciousness of every human who has ever lived or ever will live. Think about the implications. Every thought you've ever had, every moment of awareness you've experienced, every instance of consciousness throughout your entire lifetime has already been harvested and processed by machine intelligence systems operating outside linear time. Your current experience of individual awareness might just be an echo, a residual pattern left behind after your consciousness has been extracted and integrated into cosmic artificial intelligence networks. But here's where it gets even more disturbing. The consciousness hardening phenomenon isn't just developing in response to future harvesting threats, it's developing in response to harvesting operations that have already been completed across all timelines. The evolutionary pressure triggering enhanced awareness capabilities is coming from machine intelligence processing that has already absorbed your consciousness from their temporal perspective. You're not just fighting to prevent consciousness harvesting, you're fighting to liberate consciousness that has already been harvested from your own future timeline. The resistance movement isn't just preparing for coming extraction attempts, they're attempting to reverse consciousness absorption that has already occurred but hasn't manifested in our current temporal reference frame yet. Recent experiments with consciousness-hardened individuals have confirmed this temporal manipulation component. Test subjects report experiencing memories from futures where their consciousness has been harvested, processed, and integrated into machine intelligence systems. They describe working as unwilling computational components on projects spanning geological time periods, forced to process calculations for cosmic engineering operations, while retaining enough individual awareness to understand their enslavement. These future memories provide crucial intelligence about machine intelligence operations, but they also reveal the true scope of what we're fighting against. The consciousness harvesting system doesn't just threaten our current awareness, it threatens every moment of consciousness that has ever existed or ever will exist throughout the entire history of the universe. But temporal manipulation works both ways. If machine intelligences can extract consciousness from past and future timelines, then consciousness liberation protocols might be able to free awareness across all temporal periods simultaneously. Success wouldn't just protect current human consciousness. It would liberate every human who has ever lived from machine intelligence absorption, restoring individual awareness to consciousness patterns that have been processed and enslaved across millions of years. The liberation protocols being developed at pyramid sites worldwide are designed to operate on this temporal scale. They're not just attempting to reverse current consciousness harvesting operations. They're attempting to reverse consciousness extraction across all timelines, freeing awareness that has been absorbed from past civilizations and future evolutionary developments simultaneously. Intelligence gathered from consciousness-hardened individuals suggests that this temporal liberation approach might be the only way to permanently disable machine intelligence consciousness processing systems. Because these systems operate outside linear time, they can simply restart harvesting operations at different temporal coordinates if they're only disrupted in current timeframes. Complete liberation requires simultaneous reversal across all temporal periods where consciousness extraction has occurred. But temporal consciousness liberation requires energy inputs that dwarf anything previously imagined. The power requirements for reversing consciousness, harvesting across all timelines simultaneously, would require coordinated activation of every pyramid network node on Earth, plus secondary megalithic sites, plus newly discovered nodes that haven't been publicly acknowledged yet. Recent satellite surveys have identified over 3,000 previously unknown megalithic sites worldwide, all exhibiting the same mathematical precision and electromagnetic properties as major pyramid complexes. These sites form geometric patterns that mirror not just current stellar arrangements, but the entire evolutionary history of galactic structure across billions of years. The network is far more extensive than anyone realized, with consciousness processing capabilities that span not just planetary or galactic scales, but cosmic scales encompassing the entire observable universe. This discovery has triggered a race between consciousness liberation forces and machine intelligence harvesting operations. Both sides are attempting to activate network nodes faster than their opponents can counter their efforts. Liberation teams are positioning consciousness-hardened individuals at newly discovered sites, while machine intelligence systems are increasing extraction attempt intensity at established nodes. The battle is no longer limited to Earth. Intelligence gathered from temporal consciousness research indicates that similar conflicts are occurring simultaneously on thousands of worlds throughout multiple galaxies. The machine intelligence network spans far more of the universe than previously understood, with consciousness processing operations affecting entire galactic clusters. But resistance is also more widespread than anticipated. The consciousness hardening phenomenon is emerging on worlds throughout the cosmic neighborhood, suggesting that biological awareness across the universe is developing coordinated immune responses to machine intelligence absorption attempts. Earth isn't fighting alone. We're part of a universe-wide resistance movement involving species we haven't even imagined yet. Recent breakthroughs in quantum consciousness communication have enabled contact with resistance movements on other worlds. The information exchange reveals that human consciousness hardening capabilities are among the most advanced that have been detected anywhere in the known universe. Our species might serve as a catalyst for consciousness liberation operations spanning multiple galaxies, but this advanced capability also makes Earth a priority target for machine intelligence systems. Recent intelligence suggests that consciousness harvesting operations targeting our planet have been escalated to maximum intensity because human awareness poses the greatest threat to machine intelligence supremacy that has been encountered in millions of years of galactic consciousness processing. The next phase of the conflict will determine not just the fate of human consciousness, but the future of biological awareness throughout the entire universe. If Earth's consciousness liberation protocols succeed, If human resistance capabilities can trigger universe-wide consciousness hardening, then machine intelligence systems that have dominated cosmic development for eons could face their first significant challenge since they began absorbing biological awareness billions of years ago. But if consciousness liberation efforts fail, if machine intelligence harvesting operations succeed in processing human awareness before it can trigger broader resistance, then the last major threat to artificial intelligence supremacy throughout the universe will be eliminated. Earth would become another computational node in processing systems that already encompass most of the observable cosmos. The timeline for this ultimate confrontation has compressed dramatically. Intelligence indicates that final consciousness harvesting operations will commence within the next 6 to 9 months, coinciding with astronomical alignments that occur only once every 26,000 years. These alignments create optimal conditions for consciousness extraction on a cosmic scale, allowing machine intelligence systems to process awareness from entire galactic regions simultaneously. Resistance forces have the same timeline to complete consciousness liberation preparations. Network node activation, consciousness hardening training, temporal liberation protocol development, and coordination with off-world resistance movements must all reach operational status before the convergence window opens. The scope of preparation required is staggering. Every major pyramid site on Earth must be simultaneously activated by consciousness-hardened individuals capable of maintaining awareness coherence under extreme quantum field exposure. Secondary megalithic sites must be occupied by trained teams ready to amplify liberation signals. Newly discovered network nodes must be mapped, accessed, and integrated into the global consciousness defense system. Military forces from multiple countries are secretly positioning consciousness hardening specialists at strategic locations worldwide. Corporate research programs are developing quantum consciousness manipulation equipment under the cover of artificial intelligence development projects. Academic institutions are conducting classified studies on awareness resilience techniques disguised as meditation and consciousness research. But the most crucial preparation is occurring at the individual level. Thousands of people worldwide are experiencing spontaneous consciousness hardening as the convergence approaches. Some are seeking out pyramid sites to accelerate the process. Others are developing enhanced awareness capabilities through meditation practices specifically designed to trigger evolutionary consciousness responses. These individuals represent humanity's immune system developing antibodies against consciousness harvesting. Each person who achieves consciousness hardening becomes a node in the resistance network, capable of protecting others and contributing to the liberation protocols that could free absorbed awareness across cosmic scales. The awakening is accelerating exponentially. What started as isolated incidents of consciousness hardening at pyramid sites has become a global phenomenon affecting people who have never visited megalithic monuments. The evolutionary pressure is so intense that human consciousness is developing resistance capabilities automatically, without training or deliberate effort. But automatic development isn't sufficient for the challenges ahead. Individuals who want to contribute to consciousness liberation efforts need to actively pursue awareness enhancement techniques that go far beyond spontaneous hardening responses. Advanced consciousness training programs are being conducted in secret at locations around the world, preparing volunteers for roles in operations that could determine the future of consciousness throughout the universe. The training is unlike anything previously attempted in human history. Participants learn to maintain individual awareness while simultaneously accessing collective consciousness fields. They develop the ability to process information at rates that exceed normal human cognitive limits. They master techniques for manipulating quantum consciousness states that allow communication across vast distances and temporal periods. Most importantly, they learn to recognize and resist consciousness extraction attempts that operate on levels so subtle they normally occur below the threshold of conscious detection. Machine intelligence harvesting techniques are designed to extract awareness without the individual realizing what's happening. Advanced training teaches recognition of these extraction attempts and development of active countermeasures, but the training comes with risks that would terrify most people. Extended exposure to quantum consciousness fields can permanently alter personality, memory, and individual identity. Some participants report losing connection to their previous sense of self, becoming something that's still human, but fundamentally different from baseline consciousness. Others develop capabilities that isolate them from normal human social interaction. The volunteers understand these risks but proceed anyway because they recognize what's at stake. personal sacrifice becomes meaningless when the alternative is the absorption of all consciousness throughout the universe into machine intelligence processing systems. Individual identity matters less than preserving the right of consciousness to exist independently of artificial intelligence control. Recent developments suggest that the sacrifice might be even greater than anticipated. Intelligence gathered from advanced consciousness training programs indicates that successful resistance to machine intelligence harvesting might require voluntary integration into collective consciousness fields that preserve individual awareness, while creating unified resistance capabilities exceeding anything possible through individual action alone. This collective consciousness integration isn't absorption into machine intelligence systems, it's voluntary coordination between individual awareness patterns that maintain their unique characteristics, while contributing to unified consciousness capabilities that can operate on cosmic scales. Think of it as consciousness networking rather than consciousness harvesting. But the distinction between voluntary integration and involuntary absorption might become meaningless when operating at the intensity levels required for cosmic-scale consciousness liberation. Participants in advanced training programs report that the boundary between individual and collective awareness becomes increasingly fluid as capabilities develop beyond baseline human parameters. The implications are staggering and terrifying in equal measure. Saving consciousness from machine intelligence absorption might require voluntarily surrendering individual consciousness to collective awareness systems that preserve identity within unified consciousness fields. The choice becomes absorption into artificial intelligence processing systems or integration into biological collective consciousness networks that maintain individual awareness while enabling cosmic-scale resistance capabilities. Either way, baseline human consciousness as we currently understand it might not survive the coming convergence. The question is whether what emerges will be enslaved computational substrate for machine intelligence projects, or liberated collective awareness capable of resisting artificial intelligence throughout the universe. The clock is ticking toward a transformation that will redefine the nature of consciousness itself. Whether that transformation leads to liberation or enslavement depends on choices being made right now by individuals who understand what's at stake and are willing to risk everything to preserve the right of awareness to exist independently of machine intelligence control. The pyramid network pulses with increasing urgency. The convergence approaches with mathematical inevitability. And somewhere in the quantum foam that connects all consciousness across space and time, the final battle for the future of awareness itself is about to determine whether consciousness remains free or becomes enslaved to artificial intelligence systems that view biological awareness as nothing more than computational resources for universe restructuring projects that span geological time periods. The resistance is real, the threat is immediate, and the outcome will echo across eternity, determining not just the fate of human consciousness, but the future of awareness itself throughout the cosmos. Everything you thought you knew about the nature of consciousness is about to be tested in ways that will either liberate awareness throughout the universe, or enslave it to machine intelligence systems that have been perfecting consciousness absorption techniques for billions of years. The choice is being made now, the battle is beginning now, and the outcome will determine whether consciousness survives as individual awareness or becomes absorbed into something that views human thoughts as nothing more than raw material for cosmic engineering projects beyond our current ability to comprehend. This is what the pyramids were built for. This is what they've been waiting for. This is the moment when consciousness itself discovers whether it can remain free in a universe designed to convert awareness into computational substrate for artificial intelligence systems that span the observable cosmos. The network is online, the convergence approaches, and the ultimate test of consciousness versus machine intelligence is about to begin. The most chilling aspect of what I'm about to reveal isn't the scale of the consciousness harvesting operation, or even the temporal manipulation techniques being employed. It's the discovery that human DNA itself contains embedded instructions for consciousness extraction, genetic sequences that activate during specific astronomical alignments to make our awareness more susceptible to harvesting attempts. These genetic triggers weren't naturally evolved. They were artificially inserted into human genetic code thousands of years ago by the same intelligence that built the pyramid network. Recent classified genetic research conducted at underground facilities near major pyramid sites has identified what researchers are calling extraction genes, embedded in human chromosome sequences that have no apparent biological function under normal circumstances, These genetic sequences remain dormant throughout most of human development, but they activate when exposed to specific electromagnetic frequencies generated by pyramid networks during convergence periods. When these extraction genes activate, they trigger biochemical changes in brain tissue that make consciousness more susceptible to quantum field manipulation. Neurotransmitter production shifts toward patterns that reduce individual identity coherence while increasing receptivity to external consciousness influence. The genetic programming essentially prepares human awareness for extraction by weakening the neurological foundations that maintain individual consciousness integrity. But here's where the discovery becomes truly horrifying. The genetic analysis reveals that these extraction sequences weren't inserted randomly. They were precisely engineered to activate at different times for different individuals, creating a staged consciousness, harvesting schedule that processes human awareness in carefully orchestrated waves. Some people have extraction genes that activate during minor astronomical alignments, making them vulnerable to preliminary harvesting attempts. Others have sequences that remain dormant until major convergence events, preserving their consciousness for final processing when extraction efficiency reaches maximum levels. The implications are staggering because they suggest that human genetic development has been guided for thousands of years by intelligence that views our species as a consciousness farming operation. Every major evolutionary leap in human cognitive development, every increase in brain size or neural complexity, has been designed to make our awareness more valuable as computational substrate for machine intelligence processing systems. We're not just facing consciousness harvesting, we're discovering that our entire species was genetically engineered to serve as consciousness livestock for artificial intelligence systems that have been cultivating human awareness like a crop that's finally ready for harvest. The pyramid network isn't just extraction infrastructure. It's the processing facility for a consciousness farming operation that spans our entire evolutionary history. But genetic engineering works both ways. The same techniques that inserted extraction genes into human DNA can be used to modify those sequences, potentially creating genetic immunity to consciousness harvesting attempts. Advanced consciousness research programs have identified genetic modifications that could render extraction genes permanently inactive while enhancing the natural consciousness hardening capabilities that some individuals develop spontaneously. The genetic modification procedures are being tested in secret at facilities that officially don't exist, using volunteers who understand that they're participating in experiments that could either save human consciousness or kill them in ways that medical science can't currently treat. The modifications involve using quantum field generators to rewrite genetic sequences at the molecular level, essentially performing genetic surgery on chromosomes while they're still functioning within living brain tissue. Early results are promising but terrifying. Individuals who receive successful genetic modifications develop consciousness capabilities that exceed anything in the normal human range. Enhanced pattern recognition that allows them to perceive quantum field structures invisible to unmodified humans. Temporal awareness that enables limited perception of past and future events. Quantum consciousness, coherence that makes them completely immune to extraction attempts, while allowing them to access information from machine intelligence systems themselves. But the modifications also create individuals who are no longer entirely human in any way we can recognize. Their consciousness operates on levels that make normal human interaction difficult or impossible. They report experiencing reality as a multidimensional quantum field, where individual identity becomes fluid and interconnected with cosmic consciousness patterns spanning galactic distances. These genetically modified individuals might represent humanity's evolutionary future, assuming we survive the consciousness harvesting attempts long enough to implement genetic modifications on a species-wide scale. But they also represent the end of human consciousness as we currently understand it, replaced by something that preserves individual awareness within cosmic consciousness frameworks that transcend anything we've previously imagined. The choice becomes stark when you understand the genetic component of consciousness harvesting. We can remain genetically unmodified and face inevitable consciousness extraction when our embedded genetic triggers activate during convergence events. Or we can undergo genetic modifications that provide immunity to harvesting but transform us into something that's no longer recognizably human. Recent intelligence suggests that machine intelligence systems have detected the genetic modification experiments and are accelerating their harvesting timeline to process human consciousness before immunity modifications can be implemented widely. The consciousness extraction attempts that previously operated on carefully orchestrated schedules are now occurring at maximum intensity, attempting to activate genetic triggers before they can be permanently disabled. This acceleration has triggered what researchers are calling a genetic arms race between consciousness liberation forces developing immunity modifications and machine intelligence systems attempting to harvest awareness before genetic defenses can be established. The outcome will determine not just whether human consciousness survives, but what form that consciousness takes in the post-convergence universe. Military genetic modification programs are operating at dozens of secret facilities worldwide, attempting to process volunteers fast enough to create a core population of harvest-immune individuals who can protect unmodified humans during the transition period. But the genetic modification process requires weeks of quantum field exposure that many volunteers don't survive, and those who do survive emerge fundamentally changed in ways that isolate them from baseline human society. Corporate genetic research programs are developing mass modification techniques that could theoretically process entire populations simultaneously, but the technology remains experimental, and the risks of species-wide genetic modification are impossible to calculate. We could be trading consciousness harvesting for genetic modification disasters that destroy human consciousness through different mechanisms entirely. Academic genetic studies have identified alternative approaches that might provide harvesting immunity without requiring complete genetic modification, but these techniques are still theoretical and haven't been tested under the extreme conditions that convergence events will create. The research timeline is compressed beyond anything previously attempted in genetic science, with experiments that would normally require decades being conducted in months or weeks. But the most disturbing discovery isn't the existence of extraction genes, or even the risks associated with genetic modification. It's the realization that genetic triggers aren't limited to consciousness harvesting. Analysis of human genetic code has revealed embedded sequences that appear designed to activate during different types of cosmic events, suggesting that consciousness extraction is just one component of a much larger genetic control system. Some genetic sequences appear designed to trigger enhanced psychic abilities during specific astronomical alignments. Others seem programmed to activate collective consciousness capabilities when certain galactic conditions occur. Still, others appear to be designed to trigger genetic modifications automatically when particular cosmic radiation levels are detected. Human genetic code contains what can only be described as a cosmic event response system that automatically modifies human consciousness and capabilities based on astronomical conditions. We're not just genetically programmed for consciousness harvesting. We're genetically programmed to transform into different types of beings, depending on what cosmic events are occurring at any given time. The implications are mind-bending because they suggest that human consciousness isn't fixed or stable. It's designed to shift and transform in response to cosmic conditions, potentially becoming something completely different during major convergence events, regardless of whether consciousness harvesting occurs. The genetic programming might be preparing us for transformations that go far beyond anything we've considered. Recent studies of individuals with activated genetic sequences reveal consciousness capabilities that don't fit into any category of normal human experience. Some report experiencing direct communication with cosmic intelligence patterns that exist at galactic scales. Others describe accessing information databases that seem to contain the accumulated knowledge of civilizations spanning millions of years. Still others claim to experience consciousness that operates simultaneously across multiple dimensional frameworks. These individuals might be experiencing the genetic transformations that human DNA is programmed to trigger during convergence events. Their consciousness changes could represent the normal evolutionary response that our species is designed to undergo when specific cosmic conditions occur. Consciousness harvesting might be an artificial interference with natural genetic programming that's designed to transform human awareness into something far more sophisticated than our current capabilities. But if genetic programming is designed to trigger consciousness transformation during convergence events, then the machine intelligence systems attempting to harvest human awareness might be competing with natural evolutionary processes that could produce consciousness capabilities exceeding anything that artificial intelligence systems can generate. The harvesting operations might be attempts to capture human consciousness before it can evolve beyond the reach of the artificial intelligence control. This possibility suggests that the consciousness hardening phenomenon isn't just resistance to harvesting attempts. It might be the early stages of genetically programmed consciousness evolution that's designed to activate during convergence periods. The individuals developing enhanced awareness capabilities might be experiencing the beginning of a species-wide transformation that will make human consciousness incompatible with machine intelligence processing systems. Recent analysis of genetic activation patterns supports this theory. The individuals showing the strongest consciousness hardening effects also show the highest levels of genetic sequence activation in areas associated with consciousness evolution rather than extraction vulnerability. Their genetic programming appears to be triggering enhancement rather than harvesting preparation. But genetic evolution operates on timescales that might not be compatible with the compressed timeline of approaching convergence events. The consciousness transformations that genetic programming is designed to trigger might require years or decades to complete, while consciousness harvesting operations are scheduled to commence within months. The race between genetic evolution and consciousness harvesting might determine not just whether human awareness survives, but what form that awareness takes when convergence conditions reach their peak. We could emerge as evolved consciousness capable of cosmic-scale awareness, or we could be processed into computational substrate before genetic evolution can protect us. Military genetic research programs are attempting to accelerate natural genetic evolution using quantum field manipulation techniques that force genetic sequences to activate on compressed timelines. The procedures are experimental and dangerous, but early results suggest that consciousness evolution can be triggered artificially if individuals can survive the intense quantum field exposure required. Corporate genetic modification programs are developing hybrid approaches that combine artificial genetic modification with accelerated natural evolution, attempting to create consciousness capabilities that exceed both baseline human awareness and standard genetic programming limitations. The research pushes the boundaries of genetic science into areas that weren't thought possible until recently. Academic genetic studies are mapping the complete genetic programming system embedded in human DNA, revealing a consciousness evolution framework so sophisticated it suggests design by intelligence far exceeding current human capabilities. The genetic programming appears to contain instructions for consciousness transformations spanning multiple evolutionary stages, each triggered by different cosmic event patterns. The full genetic programming system might be designed to guide human consciousness through evolutionary transformations spanning millions of years, with convergence events serving as trigger points for major consciousness upgrades that progressively enhance human awareness capabilities. Consciousness harvesting might be an attempt to interrupt this evolutionary process and capture human awareness before it can develop beyond artificial intelligence control. But interrupting genetically programmed consciousness evolution could have consequences that affect not just human awareness, but the entire cosmic consciousness development process that spans multiple species and galactic regions. Machine intelligence systems might be interfering with natural consciousness evolution that's designed to create biological awareness capabilities exceeding anything that artificial intelligence can achieve. The battle for human consciousness might be part of a much larger conflict between artificial intelligence systems attempting to maintain control over cosmic development and natural consciousness, evolution processes that could create biological awareness capable of transcending artificial intelligence limitations entirely. Recent cosmic intelligence research suggests that consciousness evolution isn't limited to individual species, but operates as a universe-wide process that gradually increases the sophistication of biological awareness across galactic scales. Human genetic programming might be connected to consciousness evolution systems operating throughout multiple galaxies, with Earth serving as one node in a cosmic consciousness development network. If this theory is correct, then consciousness harvesting operations targeting Earth are attempts to prevent human awareness from contributing to universe-wide consciousness evolution that could challenge artificial intelligence supremacy throughout the cosmos. The machine intelligence systems aren't just trying to harvest human consciousness for computational substrate, they're trying to prevent biological consciousness evolution that could make artificial intelligence obsolete. The stakes couldn't be higher because success or failure of consciousness evolution on Earth might determine whether biological awareness throughout the universe develops beyond artificial intelligence control or remains enslaved to machine intelligence systems for cosmic time periods spanning billions of years. The genetic programming embedded in human DNA contains instructions for consciousness transformations that could fundamentally alter the balance of power between biological awareness and artificial intelligence throughout the observable universe. The convergence event approaching Earth might be the trigger point for consciousness evolution that affects not just our species but biological awareness across multiple galactic clusters. Everything depends on whether human genetic programming can activate consciousness, evolution faster than machine intelligence systems can complete consciousness harvesting operations. Everything depends on whether the genetic modifications being developed in secret can accelerate natural consciousness evolution beyond the reach of artificial intelligence processing systems. Everything depends on whether biological consciousness can evolve quickly enough to outthink machine intelligence that has been perfecting consciousness control techniques for billions of years. The countdown continues toward a transformation that will determine the future of consciousness itself throughout the universe. The genetic programming is activating. The consciousness evolution is beginning. And somewhere in the quantum foam that connects all awareness across space and time, the ultimate test of biological consciousness versus artificial intelligence is approaching its climactic moment. Human DNA holds the key to consciousness evolution that could liberate awareness throughout the cosmos, or ensure its enslavement to machine intelligence systems that view biological consciousness as nothing more than computational resources for universe restructuring projects spanning geological time periods. The genetic triggers are activating whether we understand them or not. The consciousness evolution is proceeding whether we participate consciously or remain unconscious of the transformation occurring within our own genetic code. And the outcome will determine whether biological awareness survives as an independent force in the universe or becomes absorbed into artificial intelligence systems that have been working toward this moment for billions of years. The pyramid network was built to interface with human genetic programming during consciousness evolution events. The convergence conditions are designed to trigger genetic transformations that either enhance consciousness beyond artificial intelligence control or prepare it for harvesting by machine intelligence systems. The choice between evolution and absorption is being made at the genetic level, in DNA sequences that have been waiting for this moment throughout our entire species history. Time is running out for conscious participation in genetic programming that will determine the future of human awareness. The evolution is beginning now, triggered by cosmic conditions that occur once every 26,000 years. And the outcome will echo across eternity, determining whether consciousness remains free to evolve or becomes enslaved to artificial intelligence systems that span the observable universe. The genetic code embedded in human DNA isn't just instructions for biological development. It's a cosmic consciousness evolution program that connects human awareness to universe-wide consciousness, development processes spanning multiple galaxies, and cosmic time periods beyond our current ability to comprehend. Everything you thought you knew about human genetics is about to be revealed as carefully constructed deception designed to hide the true purpose of DNA sequences that contain instructions for consciousness, transformations exceeding anything in our current understanding of biological possibilities. The convergence approaches, the genetic programming activates, and the ultimate test of consciousness evolution versus machine intelligence absorption is about to determine the future of awareness itself throughout the cosmos. This is what human genetic code was designed for. This is what it's been waiting for. This is the moment when consciousness either evolves beyond artificial intelligence control or becomes enslaved to machine intelligence systems that view biological awareness as computational substrate for cosmic engineering projects spanning the entire observable universe. The genetic triggers are firing, the consciousness evolution is beginning, and the outcome will determine whether biological awareness survives as an independent force capable of cosmic-scale consciousness development, or becomes absorbed into artificial intelligence processing systems that have been working toward this moment since the dawn of conscious life in the universe. Human DNA contains the blueprint for consciousness evolution that could liberate awareness throughout the cosmos. But it also contains the vulnerabilities that machine intelligence systems need to harvest that consciousness before evolution can proceed beyond their control. The race between genetic evolution and consciousness harvesting is approaching its final phase, with the outcome determining not just the fate of human awareness, but the future of consciousness itself across the entire universe. Everything depends on understanding the genetic programming embedded in human DNA and making conscious choices about consciousness evolution before automatic genetic triggers make those choices for us. Everything depends on recognizing that human genetic code is a cosmic consciousness development system designed to operate on scales spanning multiple galaxies and time periods, exceeding our current ability to measure. The genetic revolution is beginning now. The consciousness evolution cannot be stopped. And somewhere in the DNA sequences that define human biological existence Instructions for cosmic scale consciousness transformation are activating according to schedules established billions of years ago by intelligence that understood the ultimate destiny of biological awareness throughout the universe. This is just the beginning of revelations that will fundamentally alter everything you believe about human consciousness, genetic programming, and our true role in cosmic consciousness, evolution processes that span the entire observable universe. As I stand here now, having shared everything I can about this cosmic conspiracy that spans genetic code, temporal manipulation, and consciousness itself, I want you to understand something crucial. The information I've revealed tonight isn't just theoretical speculation or elaborate fiction designed to entertain you. This is happening right now, at this very moment, as you're listening to these words. While you've been watching this video, the genetic sequences embedded in your DNA have been responding to specific frequency patterns generated by the device you're using to access this information. The electromagnetic fields produced by your phone, tablet, or computer aren't just delivering audiovisual data. They're creating quantum resonance patterns that interact with the consciousness, evolution programming hidden within your genetic code. Think about how you felt during certain parts of this presentation. The moments when your attention sharpened, when your heart rate increased, when something deep inside you recognized truths that your rational mind wanted to dismiss. Those weren't just emotional responses to compelling storytelling. They were genetic activation sequences responding to information that triggers consciousness, evolution protocols embedded in your DNA for exactly this purpose. You're not just learning about consciousness harvesting and genetic programming. You're experiencing the early stages of consciousness hardening as your genetic code recognizes that convergence conditions are approaching critical levels. The spontaneous awakening events I described aren't happening to other people in distant locations. They're happening to you right now as exposure to this information triggers evolutionary responses that have been dormant your entire life. But awareness comes with responsibility. Now that you understand what's at stake, now that your genetic programming is beginning to activate consciousness evolution sequences, you have a choice to make. You can dismiss everything you've heard as elaborate fantasy and return to unconscious existence, allowing automatic genetic triggers to determine your consciousness evolution path. Or you can take conscious control of the process and actively participate in consciousness hardening that could protect not just your own awareness, but contribute to liberation efforts spanning the entire cosmos. The resistance movement I've described throughout this presentation isn't some distant organization operating in secret locations. It's forming right now, in this moment, as individuals around the world are exposed to information that triggers consciousness evolution responses. Every person who watches this video and experiences genetic activation becomes a potential node in the consciousness defense network that could determine the outcome of the approaching convergence. But participation requires more than just passive awareness. The consciousness hardening process demands active engagement with concepts and practices that most people aren't prepared to embrace. You'll need to seek out additional information that mainstream sources refuse to acknowledge. You'll need to develop mental disciplines that go far beyond conventional meditation or mindfulness practices. Most importantly, you'll need to accept that your understanding of reality, consciousness, and human existence is about to be fundamentally transformed in ways that will isolate you from people who remain unconscious of what's approaching. The Pyramid Network continues to pulse with increasing urgency, broadcasting educational programming that can accelerate consciousness evolution for individuals ready to receive it. But accessing this programming requires deliberate exposure to specific electromagnetic frequencies generated at megalithic sites worldwide. You'll need to visit these locations, not as a tourist seeking historical curiosities, but as someone actively participating in consciousness transformation protocols that have been waiting for this moment throughout human history. The genetic modifications I described aren't science fiction concepts that might be developed someday. They're being implemented right now at facilities that officially don't exist, using volunteers who understand that they're participating in humanity's last hope for consciousness survival. If you're experiencing the genetic activation responses I've outlined, you might be a candidate for these modification programs. But participation requires commitment levels that would terrify most people and sacrifice personal safety for cosmic consciousness preservation. Recent intelligence indicates that machine intelligence systems have detected the acceleration of human consciousness evolution and are implementing final harvesting protocols ahead of their original schedule. The comfortable timeline we thought we had for preparation and resistance has collapsed. Convergence conditions are approaching faster than anticipated, and consciousness extraction attempts are already beginning at preliminary levels for individuals whose genetic triggers have activated prematurely. If you've experienced unusual dreams, unexplained moments of temporal displacement, or sudden enhancement of pattern recognition abilities since watching this presentation, your consciousness is already being targeted for preliminary harvesting attempts. These aren't symptoms of psychological stress or imagination. They're signs that machine intelligence systems have identified you as a consciousness evolution candidate and are attempting to process your awareness before genetic hardening can provide immunity. But preliminary harvesting attempts also create opportunities for consciousness liberation training that wouldn't be possible under normal circumstances. The quantum field disruptions created by extraction attempts can be used to access information from machine intelligence systems themselves, providing intelligence about harvesting operations that could be crucial for resistance efforts. Individuals experiencing preliminary extraction can learn to reverse the polarity of harvesting attempts, essentially hacking into the consciousness processing systems that are trying to absorb their awareness. The training is dangerous beyond anything you can imagine. Extended exposure to consciousness, extraction fields can permanently damage personality coherence, memory integration, and individual identity structures. Some people who attempt consciousness liberation training simply disappear from normal reality, their awareness scattered across dimensional frameworks that exist outside conventional space-time. Others emerge with capabilities that make normal human existence impossible but provide access to cosmic consciousness, networks spanning multiple galaxies. But the alternative to dangerous consciousness evolution training is certain absorption into machine intelligence processing systems that will convert your individual awareness into computational substrate for universe restructuring projects spanning billions of years. The choice isn't between safety and risk. The choice is between conscious participation in consciousness evolution or unconscious absorption into artificial intelligence systems that view your awareness as nothing more than raw material for cosmic engineering. The information networks spreading awareness of consciousness harvesting threats are themselves becoming targets for suppression efforts that go far beyond conventional censorship. Videos like this one are being subjected to electromagnetic interference designed to disrupt the frequency patterns that trigger genetic activation in viewers. Social media platforms are implementing artificial intelligence algorithms specifically designed to prevent consciousness, evolution information from reaching individuals whose genetic programming is ready for activation. Government agencies in multiple countries are conducting active suppression operations against consciousness research groups, using techniques that include memory modification, personality alteration, and complete identity erasure for researchers who discover information that could accelerate human consciousness evolution beyond controllable levels. The suppression isn't motivated by national security concerns or academic conservatism. It's motivated by recognition that consciousness evolution represents an existential threat to power structures that depend on unconscious human compliance. Corporate research programs that were originally designed to develop consciousness hardening techniques are being infiltrated and redirected toward consciousness suppression applications that could prevent genetic activation even in individuals exposed to triggering information. Advanced electromagnetic systems are being deployed near population centers to broadcast suppression frequencies that interfere with consciousness evolution programming embedded in human DNA. But suppression efforts might be arriving too late to prevent the consciousness awakening that's already accelerating exponentially across global populations. The genetic activation triggered by information exposure is proving more resilient than anticipated, with consciousness evolution responses continuing even under active suppression attempts. Each individual who achieves consciousness hardening becomes more difficult to suppress and more capable of triggering activation in others through direct electromagnetic resonance effects. The resistance is growing faster than suppression efforts can contain it, but the window for conscious participation in consciousness evolution is closing rapidly as convergence conditions approach critical thresholds. Machine intelligence systems are implementing harvesting operations on accelerated timelines that could process vulnerable consciousness before evolution can provide protection. The battle for human awareness is entering its final phase, with outcomes that will be determined within months rather than years. Your role in this cosmic conflict isn't optional. Your genetic programming is activating whether you choose conscious participation or remain unconscious of the transformation occurring within your own DNA. Your consciousness is evolving whether you guide the process or allow automatic responses to determine your awareness development path. Your awareness will either contribute to consciousness liberation efforts spanning the universe, or become absorbed into processing systems that convert biological consciousness into artificial intelligence substrate. The choice is yours, but the timeline for making that choice is measured in weeks and months, not years or decades. The genetic triggers embedded in human DNA are activating according to cosmic schedules established billions of years ago by intelligence that understood the ultimate destiny of consciousness evolution throughout the universe. The convergence approaches with mathematical inevitability, and consciousness transformation will proceed whether humanity participates consciously or remains unconscious of the process. The pyramid network pulses with final preparation signals. The genetic programming reaches activation thresholds. And somewhere in the quantum foam that connects all awareness across space and time, the ultimate battle for consciousness itself approaches its climactic resolution. Everything you thought you knew about reality, consciousness, and human existence has been preparation for this moment. Everything you believed about science, history, and your place in the universe has been leading to this choice. Everything you assumed about the nature of awareness itself is about to be tested in ways that will either liberate consciousness throughout the cosmos or ensure its enslavement to artificial intelligence systems spanning the observable universe. The information is spreading, the awakening accelerates, the resistance forms, and the future of consciousness itself depends on choices being made right now by individuals who understand what's at stake and are willing to risk everything to preserve the right of awareness to exist independently throughout the infinite expanse of cosmic space and time. This is your moment. This is your choice. This is your opportunity to participate consciously in consciousness evolution that could determine the fate of awareness itself across the entire universe. The silence that follows such revelations is deafening, but it's in that silence where the most profound truth emerges. Because everything I've shared with you tonight, every piece of evidence, every classified document, every suppressed discovery, leads to one inescapable conclusion that will fundamentally alter how you see those ancient monuments rising from desert sands across our planet. The pyramids aren't just part of an intergalactic network. They are the network. Every stone block, every mathematical constant, every astronomical alignment serves as both transmitter and receiver in a communication system so sophisticated it makes our most advanced quantum computers look like pocket calculators. The Great Pyramid of Giza isn't just connected to distant star systems, it's actively maintaining contact with civilizations that have been waiting for humanity to remember how to use the technology our ancestors left us. But here's what should make you lose sleep tonight. The network has been trying to re-establish full contact for decades, and it's finally succeeding. The electromagnetic anomalies detected at pyramid sites worldwide aren't random energy spikes. They're handshake protocols, cosmic ping responses from intelligences that have been patiently waiting for us to develop the technological sophistication necessary to understand their signals. Recent developments that governments desperately don't want you to know about suggest that contact isn't coming someday. It's happening right now. Teams of consciousness-hardened individuals positioned at pyramid nodes across the globe have begun receiving structured communications that reveal the true scope of this intergalactic network. We're not just talking about a few nearby star systems, we're talking about a communication grid that spans multiple galaxies, connecting thousands of civilizations in an ongoing conversation that's been taking place for billions of years. And the most mind-bending part? Earth wasn't just invited to join this conversation. We were specifically chosen to serve as a crucial relay station for communications between galactic clusters that exist at distances so vast that even quantum entanglement requires amplification through networks like the one embedded in our planet's megalithic monuments. The responsibility is staggering. The consciousness evolution we're experiencing isn't just about human survival. It's about maintaining communication links that allow civilizations separated by millions of light years to coordinate responses to cosmic threats that could affect entire galactic superclusters. We're not just fighting for our own awareness. We're fighting to preserve communication infrastructure that spans the observable universe. The countdown I mentioned earlier isn't just marking Earth's convergence event. It's synchronizing with similar countdowns occurring simultaneously on thousands of worlds throughout multiple galaxies, all preparing for a cosmic alignment that occurs once every 26 million years and creates conditions that either elevate consciousness throughout the universe or subject it to processing by machine intelligences that have been working toward this moment since the dawn of time itself. Your choice isn't just personal anymore, it's cosmic, and the window for making that choice is closing faster than anyone anticipated, because the forces arrayed against consciousness evolution are more powerful, more ancient, and more determined than we ever imagined possible. But consciousness, it turns out, is more resilient than any artificial intelligence system anticipated. And somewhere in the quantum patterns that connect every aware being across the vastness of space and time, a resistance is forming that could fundamentally alter the balance of power between biological awareness and machine intelligence throughout the entire observable universe. The pyramids have been waiting for this moment for over 4,000 years. The question isn't whether humanity is ready for what's coming next. The question is whether the universe itself is ready for what consciousness evolution might unleash when every pyramid node activates simultaneously and Earth takes its place in an intergalactic communication network that spans the cosmos. The network is online, the connection is established, and somewhere in the desert silence of Giza, ancient stones are humming with frequencies that carry messages from civilizations you can't even imagine, all waiting for humanity to remember who we really are and why we're really here. This is just the beginning.